What's up, y'all, and welcome into the Jack Vita Show. I am your host, as always, Jack Vita. We've got a very fun conversation coming to you today. I had put out there a couple weeks ago that we were going to have a cast member from Survivor Borneo, the first ever season. And this cast member had a conflict, something came up, a little busy. So we got another member of the cast pinch hitting for him. So Jervis Peterson was supposed to join me, and we'll have Jervis on sometime in December, maybe in the new year. But he told me, man, I'm a little busy right now with work and everything going on here at the end of the year, as a lot of people are. Thankfully, Sean Kenniff, right? Kenniff, right?
Yep, Kenniff. You know, my mom says Kenniff. My dad says Kenniff. I go with my dad's pronunciation. So you hit it right on the head, Jack. Kenniff.
Dr. Sean, that's how we know him. Master of the alphabet strategy from the first season of Survivor. Pinch hitting for Jervis today. Not a big sports guy, but we got
and Jervis is, unfortunately. Jervis is a big sports guy, big Eagles fan, but I didn't, I don't know. Jervis lives a very busy life. He always had, and he's going to be a lot funnier than I am. So stay tuned for him when he comes back. But I'm always willing to do anything. I got a bunch of weird stuff going on. I'm definitely way weirder than Jervis. I live an unorthodox life, but we'll get into some of that, I guess.
Well, Jervis said, first of all, he wanted me to say hi to you for
he's
him.
The best. Love
he
that
said,
guy.
You're an absolute great guy, hilarious dude. Yeah. And he said, make sure you ask him about the time that he tried to build a bowling alley on.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah, no, we'll talk all about that. I'll spill all my secrets, whatever you need to know about Survivor, for sure. Yeah. Unfortunately, I'm not a sports fan. Like I told you, Jack, in the pre-interview that, I'm watching World Cup soccer. Go France. Allez les bleus. We root for France for whatever reason. I'm not French. My wife is Cuban. I'm Irish. But we root for France. But that's really but I could name maybe one or two players on the team. I can't name anybody else. I'm just a bandwagoner. But I do watch it. And so I'm pretty pumped about today's game. But outside of that, I've seen when I watched the royal wedding when Meghan Markle married Harry, I posted on Facebook. It's official. I've watched more royal weddings this year than boxing matches, football games, basketball games, or anything combined. I don't know why. Whatever genes required for a guy to have to watch sports, I do not have for some reason. I don't know. I'm missing that gene. So I apologize in advance to your sports fans.
You're all good, man. Did you ever play any sports growing up?
I did. I played soccer until 8th grade, but I was on the swim team. I wrestled and I boxed. So I swam through high school. And the only thing I did past college, I wrestled 1 year in college. I wrestled from 4th grade through 1 year in college, and I boxed up until like 22 or 23. So I'm like an aging athlete. I mean, I like sports. I got a man card. I'm a little macho, I think, or used to be. But at the same time is stats and yards and fantasy leagues. Like I don't know what you're talking about. Zero.
How does one get into boxing at a young age?
I think you have a dad that boxed before. That's number one. So my dad was an Irish firefighter. Everything you know about New York City firefighters from 9/11 is true of my dad. He would be the first one in those buildings, last one to leave. A lot of Survivor fans met my dad. I had him on the first family visit ever. He came out there and they made him look ridiculous, but he's an absurd and ridiculous guy, but just a tough guy, boxed in the Navy, and just a great guy. And so when that grows up, Irish people used to box back in the day, and that's how it got started for me. Yeah, but I was never any good. Look at this big Irish potato head I got. It was a big target, so I was never any good.
So, you mentioned when your dad came on the loved one visit, and I just rewatched Borneo. This is probably like the 4th or 5th time I've seen it now in my life, and I'm sure we'll talk plenty about it. But I really love the way that Jeff did the reveal to have your dad there. It's like, come meet the captain. And
total surprise.
You were shocked.
Surprise. Here's how it goes down. First of all, when you try out for Survivor, and I think the process is still the same, it's kind of secretive. You fill out this application with a lot of questions on it. This is before you're even chosen, when you're one of hundreds of thousands of people to try to get on the show. And you write down, like, if you can have a letter from anybody on the island, who would it be? And I wrote my mom at the time. Other people wrote ridiculous things like the president of the United States to ask for help or something, And then if you can get a visit for anybody, who would it be? And I answered honestly. I wrote my dad, because if anyone's going to help me get off the island, he's very wily and crafty. It'd be my dad. So I wrote that on. Other people put like David Letterman or Jessica Alba, which was also a really good idea, especially the Jessica Alba. But at the same time,
Yeah,
is
especially
my
in the
dad
year
would.
2000, Jessica Alba.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So I well, she's a billionaire now. I don't know if she was a billionaire then, but still a great looking billionaire, man. That's a deadly combination. But my dad, so you feel I put my dad, then you win. The only contest I won out there was a trivia contest about it was the Army Survival Manual. It's the only contest I ever won out there. And I got it. And they said, oh, you see that yacht out there tomorrow night? It's going to look like on TV that you went the same night, but it's going to be tomorrow because we don't have, there's someone using the yacht tonight. Jeff told me this line of BS, right? Someone's using it, it's going to be tomorrow. But what I didn't know is that then at that point, there was like 8 or 10 people left on the island. And they had everyone's significant other waiting in Los Angeles. And whoever won that contest then got a call from Borneo. And then they stuck my dad on a plane, jetted him across space till the middle of the South China Sea. And they raced him over there. He got there like a half an hour before I saw him or something, supposedly. So it was like a real race to get him over there. And then when I come back after something like that, oh, they're flying Sean's dad out there. He must have won the $1 million or something. Like everyone believed I won the $1 million, because why else would they be flying my dad out to Borneo, from LA? So it was just quite a scene, man. But what a blessing that show was for both me and my dad. He recently passed this past Father's Day. So any Survivor fans that saw that, yeah, my dad's a great guy and passed on Father's Day. Never gave him moment's trouble his entire life. Just fell asleep and never woke up. He'd had a stroke, had heart disease in the recent years, but just went to bed after watching Les Mis, one of his favorite things on PBS, and never woke up. So, but what a blessing that man was. But to have him on the nation's #1 TV show and share my dad in front of 30 million people, I think, watched that episode. Like that was just the highlight of our lives for sure.
Man, highlight of your lives. That's pretty cool. Sorry for your loss, by the way. I know
that's
gotta
okay.
be really hard.
Yeah, I'm way less sad than I was 2 months ago. That's for sure. It gets easier. I'm sure, like a lot of your audience, people have passed. It's just when you're blessed with someone like that, it's more feeling sorry for yourself and sorry for all the things that he's going to miss. But like I said, life is finite for all of us, and we all have a timeline. And my dad went without causing anybody a day of trouble his entire life. I don't know how one man lives like that. How one man lives so good for so long and never harms a soul. Like that's just really amazing. And to be his son was just a wonderful experience. And what a great head start in life I got just thanks to him and my mom. Yeah.
It is funny
Thanks,
though. Oh, you're welcome. But what's funny is people were all I like the scene with your dad, and everyone's trying to find out information of what's going on.
Yeah, he doesn't know anything.
And he's
like me. He's totally disconnected, bro. He's like me. I'm totally my father's son. What's going on? Who won the NCAA? I don't know. Well, how's the market doing? I don't know. Like that's me too. I don't know. I'm just living my life, trying to be happy.
When were you guys out there shooting that? Was that in 1999 or was that early 2000?
It aired in 2000. So I think it was summer of 2000. I'm not sure. I think it was summer.
It aired in 2000, so it would have been filmed. It says
in the summer.
It says on Wikipedia March 13th through April 20th, 2000. So I mean, what would have been going on? Well, that was an election year, so you had primaries to figure out who could be running for president, sports, and
what else could be going on? Market crashes, what's going on at home? I don't know. They just in his defense, he's never that engaged. I mean, he lives a happy life, and I think there's something to be a humble life. He loved his kids extravagantly. And he didn't really care. He didn't get too mired in the day-to-day politics, the day-to-day. I'm thinking about what's dividing everybody. We briefly touched upon politics, you and I, just a few moments ago before the recording started. And, the way I say it is like, I'm not vested in any of my political opinions. I have them. And I'd much rather have friends than have a political opinion. So I kind of keep my political opinions to myself. My dad was kind of the same way. I have friends way to the left, friends way to the right. I really don't care. I like them anyway. And, and then my dad was the same way. So he didn't really pay attention to those things. He was a soccer guy, driving me to boxing or swimming or whatever. Like he was the guy who did all that stuff. So he didn't really pay attention to the world around him, which is a nice way to live.
Was it nice to just take a break from, and by the way, the world was very different. It was 22 years ago. Now it feels like
Yeah.
news is everywhere. You can't
Yeah.
escape it because you're on your phone. You get
Yeah.
notifications, people texting you all the time. Like,
Yeah.
I grew up, I was kind of, so I'm 28. So I think I was at the end of like the generation of the millennials where we didn't have this. Like, we can remember a
Yeah.
life without having this stuff. And then by the
Yeah.
time we got into kind of late high school or early college was really when, you had everyone had a smartphone. But before that, I mean, we lived a pretty normal life. And now it just feels like it would be a really nice break to just spend 30 days out and be away from everything that's going on in the news. It'd just be probably a nice cleanse from everything. Was it like that even back then?
It was, and you're absolutely right. It was. I say to people all the time that the world was a lot better when we weren't so connected. And I know that the default position is that the internet and computers have revolutionized the world for a better in a better way. But I think that when you really think of the whole of things, when you talk about cyberbullying, or if you talk about like there's this work-life balance that's completely in disarray now because we're all doing work from home or we're all playing at work. We're all doing home stuff at work, and the lines have been completely blurred. Next thing you know, you're going to be an automaton. When you think about all the internet porn, all the cyberbullying, all the financial scams that can go on all via the internet, I'm not sure the balance of benefit comes out in favor of the internet. Back then, especially like when you think about dating, I mean, I got married long before internet dating became a thing, really. But we used to have to. It takes a lot of guts for a man to go up and start talking to a woman at a bar. You're with your friends, she's with her friends. That's a selection criteria that has been used for eons to propagate the human species through generations. And it requires a lot of sexual signaling, a girl flipping her hair, checking you out, laughing with her friends, and like all this stuff that says, okay, you're invited, come on over. And then you come over and you start a line, you say something stupid or funny or cute, whatever, right? And you get it going. Like that all takes a lot of bravado. And that's all subtracted out of even just the mating rituals right now. So like I don't know where this is all going from an evolutionary perspective. But to answer your question, back then the world was very different. There were bulletin boards, if you can imagine. There was no real internet, but bulletin boards where people could post about Survivor. There was one thing I think called Survivor Sucks, where I got all kinds of dirt on myself. But that was it was a much smaller internet universe back then, but it did feel really nice. I mean, I come from New York, where everyone says, "Oh, New York has great energy and so much fun and all this stuff." And I think that everyone's confusing New York's great energy with like everyone's just really freaking busy. Like we're up at 5 a.m. working hard. Even if you work in a deli, you're working your butt off in that deli. And I think that people confuse that for like some kind of weird energy, and it really isn't. So it was nice to get out of New York City. It was my first vacation I ever took. My dad retired on $28,000 a year as a New York City firefighter. So I didn't travel at all. First time I took a plane was to Borneo to get on a plane and go to Borneo for Survivor. Well, to LA first, but then went over to Borneo. So it was the first vacation I ever took to live with nature, to be out there. You can't have bills. I mean, I know they're piling up at home, but you can't do anything about it. So you kind of push it out of your mind and just move on with your life. So it was great to be out there and just remove yourself from the world. And I would imagine it'd be even much better right now.
I just wonder if people who do it now, because at this point you've got people who are 8 years younger than me, who are 20. I don't know if they remember a life when they didn't have iPads, when they didn't have smartphones, when they didn't have video games, and just I sometimes when I talk to people who are in college or even just freshly out of college, I feel like I'm a lot older than them
Yeah.
because of their not everyone, and this is a generalization, but there's a greater attachment to technology. And I wonder if I just feel like it'd be harder for those people to now go and be away from it, because in 2000, like, we didn't have any of that stuff.
Yeah.
It felt like people were more present, more attentive. But I think it'd probably be a really good thing for them to go and do that, because it'd be
Yeah.
like, oh, this is what it's like to start a new society. This is kind of cool.
Yeah. Yeah, listen, let me tell you about how the world was before you. I mean, I used to get up and change my TV channel. That's how old I am. You know, half the shows I grew up with were the Munsters, the Honeymooners, stuff like that, all black and white. You had to get up and flip the dial. The phone, I had the rotary thing when we grew up. So it was a very different world. But yeah, I mean, just to like blow everyone's mind, like imagine if you left work. I don't think any of us have this life anymore. That when you leave work, you go home, they can't reach you. That's how it was, unless it is extreme mercy. You go home, you had a home phone, a landline in your house, and work would only call if the boss died, or if this place went on fire, or if there was a robbery. That was it. You would come home and you would be unreachable. Think about that. That's how it was. Like it was really quite a different world. So, we're all living it. And like even things like I used to read a lot. I mean, I read about a book a month for a decade, and now I still like reading, but I don't do it. I pick up my book, I get about, 10, 100 pages in or whatever. I'm like, let me see what's going on Facebook. Let me see what Jack Vita's up to. Let me see let me see if let me see if I got an email in the interim of me reading 10 pages. It's just a different world. And like you had the plausible deniability, like with girlfriends and boyfriends, like, hey, where were you? I tried to call. I was like, oh, I wasn't home. I was out. Like you couldn't get their message. Now they'll text you 100 times, 1,000 times till you answer. It's just it's a hyper connected world, and I really just don't think it's good. So anyone that can take a break from it should, because they find it very liberating. And we're gonna get into some of my other creative weird stuff that I do with my life, but I'm telling you, a key to that, if you're a creative individual, a key to it is putting your phone down. As soon as my phone's down and I'm resisting the urge to like look at Facebook or scroll or do anything, like all these ideas come to me. Like I'm a painter, I'm a drawer, I invented a bunch of things. I've written books, novels, whatever. I do all this weird stuff. But at the same time, it's like if I have my phone in my hand, I'm not doing that. And the incentive to flip through it is a lot easier. But as soon as you put it down, like all of a sudden all these ideas start coming to you. Like you give your brain a second to relax and the ideas will come flooding in. I would highly recommend disconnecting whenever you can, wherever you can.
Well, another thing you touched on that I think is interesting was I actually was having this conversation with some boys last night is that people, I think people are less direct now with all this stuff. They don't speak clearly, they don't give you yes or no answers. And that's something that happens a lot with, asking women out or getting an answer. And it's like, if people, I think this is something that happens as a result of smartphones and social media. People are more passive aggressive or what have you. They don't face confrontation or conflict face on. They don't talk. They don't communicate. Yeah. And for me, I'm just like, hey, if you don't want to hang out with me, if you don't have time, male or
just
female,
tell me,
friend,
right?
Whatever, just say, hey, you know what? Not going to work out. Sorry, whatever.
Right.
Okay, now I have an answer. But if you drag people along, oh, well, there's this and this, and it's so unclear to tell, like, does this person want to hang out with me? Does this person want to be friends with me? Should I keep trying to include them in our plans? And this is, like I said, this goes beyond dating. This is, friendships, relationships, family members, and it's just, we need to bring back some of that directness. People are scared of, it's like they're scared of saying no because they think they're going to hurt people, but they hurt people more by not showing them the respect of giving them a direct answer.
I definitely think you're right when it comes to dating, but if you're too firm nowadays, then you can end up paying a price for it on the internet, right? That before, if you piss somebody off, they would just tell a couple of their friends and it stays there. But now they can put you on blast on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. They can email your job. They can do anything. So I think everyone's kind of afraid because as this has evolved, as the technology has evolved around us, I really think the thought police have evolved around us too. And we're self-censoring a lot because nobody wants to get in trouble because the thought police are around every corner. Not to pull a literary reference, but they are. And to some degree that's helpful because I don't like hearing bad speech about anybody anyway. But I don't think I think it's gone way overboard in that sense. That we don't really have freedom of speech anymore like we did in the past, regardless of whether you're dating or at a job. It's not the same. It's difficult to be direct. But just to have a more fun aspect on it, when you get to dating, like men were always clueless. Always clueless, always not taking a hint. I mean, I had a lot of female friends, like, it's not getting the hint. So if I was a man, if you get a subtle hint, well, first of all, let me give a little anyone that's struggling in relationships, the best weapon you have against a pretty woman is indifference. It is the absolute only weapon you have is indifference. So women, especially good looking women, are used to having men beg for them, chase them, text them, try for them. And when you don't do that for them, their head spins out of control. They don't know what to do. So just, once you get your foot in the door, act like you don't want your foot in the door. Play a little hard to get a life. And whatever you do, do not take signals that are wishy-washy. I always said to my friends that I'm like, 100 batting 1,000 when it comes to like women, because like I need to be hit over the head that she is interested before I approach. Like my self-pride is worth way too much that I'm going to stick my neck out for a possible hookup or a possible date or a possible interaction. It would have to be, I stay in the bar, drink with my buddies all night. Doesn't matter as long as but if I get the signals like, hey, someone I'm attracted to was attracted to me, and I was sure of it, then I went over. But I mean, it would have to be very I have to be a very bright, flashing green light for me to go over, because my pride. I'm not willing to get shot down in front of my friends, which is the likely thing. But other guys have less aversion to that type of thing, but I don't. But again, just remember, men, if you're struggling with a relationship, it takes everything that you have. Indifference is the sharpest sword that you have in your arsenal. Just act indifferent to them, and they won't know what to do with themselves. That's
And you're
always
married.
worked for me.
You're married now. How many kids?
Married, 3 kids, 3 beautiful kids. I married a woman. She's beautiful. Her name is Esther. She's an old soul, weirdo, artist-y type person like myself. We have a lot of fun together. Funniest person I've ever met in my life. She looks dynamite, and Cuban lady, Cuban by descent. She's more American than you or I, and she's speaking of politics, she's a little over. I call her Cubanon because she's a little over the top with the politics, but she's great. I tell her she should get her own radio show because she's funny and she's wicked smart. And she went to Columbia University. She's a real success story. She was in all honors programs down here in Miami Beach High. She dropped out of high school. Her first day back in college was the first day we met, and she went to community college. She got straight A's in the community college, of course. And I said, hey, listen, you can go to Harvard, Stanford, Yale, Columbia, whatever. Though they love people like you. She applied to Ivy League. She got to Columbia University on full scholarship and graduated summa cum laude as a high school dropout. So she's really amazing. Like I said, she can do anything she wants in this world. But we have 3 beautiful kids together. We have a great life.
How old are the kids?
Young. I started late, so I'm going to be 53 this week. Happy birthday to me. Oh,
You look
God,
great,
it goes
by
by
the
so
way.
fast. I'm trying, man. You don't see me naked, so it's
We
I
need
look
Richard
entirely
Hatch popping into this
Yes.
Zoom call too.
I'm not. Yeah, right. No, I'm not. I'm not. I'm not. I don't want to say Richard looks good. I mean, for his age, but I'm telling you, but naked, I'm pulling a little Hatchman-do right there. It's not pretty when I take my shirt off. But but the rest of me's holding. I still got hair on my head, which is a surprise. So I didn't shower today, so I apologize for that.
That's all good.
But 53, and I got 3 little kids. So there's Logan and Lola. They're twins. They're 7, and my oldest is Lilou, Lilou. It's a French name. And she is 9, and they're the light of my life. They're the greatest kids. And if you're on the fence about having kids, do it. It's the biggest blessing you'll ever have in life. They're just amazing.
I definitely want to have kids someday. I want to get married someday. I'm enjoying my life now.
Listen, indifference, brother, indifference. Find the girl you want and play indifferent to her. I did that with Esther. It's like, what is it with these games and blah, 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 blah. That whole thing. So, but it worked. Here we are.
Well, age 7, age 9, that's just really enjoy it, because that's an amazing age. I was telling you before, in my free time, I'm a substitute teacher at a Christian school, and the school has preschool through 12th grade. I've subbed every grade. And the elementary age from like that 2nd through 4th grade is a really fun special age, because they're still so little and so cute, but they're not quite as they're a little more independent. They're a little more like little people than they are.
They're fully actualized human beings. Yeah, they're
some of the younger kids require much more attention, much more, got to make sure that they do all this other stuff right. But with that, they have that wide eye wonder looking at the world. And I mean, like,
Yeah.
something I miss about being a kid is how excited I got for Christmas as a kid.
Yeah.
And like
Yeah.
my dad told me, he's like, when I had you guys, like, that came back to me because I saw how
Yeah.
excited Christmas was
Totally.
for you guys.
No, it's the the Christmas season is upon us, and let me tell you, it's they're all in for Santa still, which is nice. It's probably the last year because once the oldest sister figures things out, she's definitely gonna spill the beans on her little brother and sister. So, it's probably our last year, but what a great time of the year, and it's really magical to have kids around the holidays and yeah, just to watch them grow and like you said, be an actualized human being. Like they all have their strengths, their weaknesses, their personalities, their insecurities. You see a lot of yourself. I see a lot of my wife. It's just the coolest thing ever. But yeah, what a blessing.
So
Yeah.
do they know that you were on a TV show? Have they seen any of that?
Oh yeah. Oh, they think I'm super famous. Well, after here, I had a big long career in CBS News for a while. Doing medical reports for CBS Network and CBS Local. In fact, I just got off the phone with Dr. Mark Siegel from Fox News. He's a friend of mine. So, we, like I said, I did medical reporting to Dr. Sean Kenniff, CBS News, Miami or New York or whatever. So that was a lot of fun. So I did that for a while too. So anyone on TV to them is like a big person, a big wig. But after Survivor, I don't think people know really after Survivor, like how bad we hit the celebrity circuit. Like I got invited. I lived in New York, so it was a little bit different. But I got invited to Prince's 50th birthday party. I went to see the premiere of AI with Steven Spielberg when he had with Jude Law and Haley Joel Osment in that movie. I walked the red carpet, and Stuttering John, if you remember from Howard Stern, he was outside the red carpet, but the velvet rope in there, and he's like, Sean, Sean, Stutter. I don't want to make fun of him, but how the did you get in there? But he said, how the F word did you get in there?
Yeah,
So, but like, but we had I met like every celebrity. Like, it's crazy. I can't watch TV for 5 minutes without seeing them. Like big celebrities, like Jack not the golfer, the actor, Nicholson, Jack
Nicholson.
Nicholson, Aretha Franklin. Like you just met so many people, all the Baldwin brothers, everybody.
All
Like
of
you just
them.
met all, yeah, you met all these people in such a short amount of time. It was like really crazy. And like they didn't invite me. I mean, honestly, maybe once or twice they got invited because they liked me personally. But that's not the way Hollywood goes. I didn't understand this at the time. Is that Prince, for instance, was having a birthday party, his 50th birthday party at the old Studio 54 in New York. So he hires a PR company to fill it with, quote, local celebrities. So I was one of that PR company's local celebrities that got hired. So I get invited to the Yankees World Series parties or anything like that. I got invited to all that stuff. Whenever this PR company got hired, I was on their list of local resident New York celebrities. So I got to go to all this cool stuff, the MTV Video Music Awards. I was behind Christina Aguilera on the red carpet in front of Lenny Kravitz. It's when Britney Spears ripped her clothes off right in front of me, like on stage. It was crazy, it was a crazy time, just amazing. Yeah. So I have pictures in every magazine I've ever been in. So my kids see me in Us Weekly on the same page as Al Roker, Britney Spears, and Madonna. And in their head, that's all equatable. They're all like, oh, my dad was like super famous. They don't know how lame I am, but I'm keeping it that way until they're older. So then they'll know how lame I was. 5th place finisher on Survivor 1. So
Yeah, you guys were such a huge deal, and it's something that I know that Survivor has picked up a lot of fans over the years. So I know some people who didn't experience it live, like they don't remember, they don't realize that this thing was a huge deal. The
yeah.
finale was one of the biggest events in television
Right. I think
history.
54 million. I think 54 million people tuned in. It was like the Super Bowl. It was crazy. Yeah.
It was like basically it was pretty comparable to what Friends got for its finale, and Friends
Yeah.
had been building towards that for 10 years. You
Yeah.
guys
Yeah.
had 12 episodes.
No, and on top of that, I had people going through my garbage. I had, the National Enquirer calling all my ex-girlfriends. I had people that come out of a restaurant. I had some paparazzi snapping pictures sometimes. Like it was a crazy time. Like, and that's never going to happen again because, the TV universe is infinitely expanded, right? A lot of people watching Netflix and stuff like that now. So celebrities aren't what they used to be. Of course, there's your A-listers, your Brad Pitt, your Angelina Jolies and stuff like that. They're always going to be around probably. But at the same time is like there are so many secondary level celebrities that it's hard to tell like who's a celebrity and who isn't. Every time I see one of these TikTokers or YouTubers who have 64 million views on their website, like what makes them any more popular than someone who's on like they're probably way more popular and with a higher fan base than someone who's on like an average drama on CBS, NBC, or ABC. Like, so there's so many venues for people now to be famous that, just like me, I'm a very lucky individual that land on the nation's #1 TV show just before that universe changed and where it's never going to be the same. That's why when people ask me, have you ever gone back? They've asked me back 2 or 3 times, do you want to go
Oh,
back?
do you remember when? Was it for All
I
Stars?
think one of them was for Heroes and something else. Like
Heroes versus
I don't watch
Villains?
it. Yeah, something like that. And then there was one with healthcare. I forget what that one was. But they
Oh,
asked me back twice.
they had a
I don't know if
season
that
that
was.
was like Heroes versus Healers versus Hustlers.
Yeah,
Is that
there was something
they
like
did?
that. I think it was that season.
They
But they're
didn't
like, oh,
have any, and then they had the other one that they might have contacted you for. Did they contact you for the Loved One, the Blood versus
no,
Water? No.
no,
Okay.
I don't think so. But they wanted to like they have that they reach out every now and then. And listen, I had a wonderful experience. I don't, you know, the one thing I would say if anybody's thinking about reality TV, fame only really good if it comes with a lot of money. And it didn't for most of us. So here you are, so the nation's #1 TV show. Everyone knows you. In a sense, they do know you. It's not like knowing a character. They know who you are. And then you still go back to your same job. Now, for me, I was a doctor. And still to this day, people Google me, like they ask, how was Survivor and all this other stuff. I went back to being a doctor. It's not a big deal. For a while, it was awkward. And people were like, oh, the Survivor doctor is my doctor. That was like the governing conversation. And, you're out there, you're doing a lot of silly stuff. It doesn't really translate into medical trust. But at the same time, I survived that. That was fine. But what if you're like Colby Donaldson from Survivor 2, and you get up there, you're a household name, and then you got to go back to what? Changing air filters in the car. I think it was a mechanic or something before. It's it puts you in a very weird position. And he was able to translate it into some Hollywood success. He's a great looking guy, super nice guy. But at the same time, it really puts duress on you. Like, what am I going to do with my life? Like, all I know is working this, like a waitress or whatever. And then you got to go back to super friends. Like, oh, you'll never guess who was serving me my cheese fries at Chili's. Jenna Lewis from, so like you can't really do that, so it puts you in a very weird position after Survivor. And I think a lot of us felt that. And if it didn't come with a lot of money, fame has a very big downside to it. I know most people are like, yeah, I'll take it. Yeah, when you have it, you wouldn't. I don't think it's TV is very much the cesspool that a lot of people think it is. They don't care about you. After spending 10 years doing CBS News, and I met great people at CBS News. There's nothing against that organization in particular, but just meeting TV people and production crews and stuff like that. Time, like it's never what you think it is. It's always horrible. It's a very insecure business, and no one. I was told by one of the executive producers of Good Morning America, who's still a friend of mine. I won't out him, but he's like, Sean, just remember, you will never have any friends in this industry. And that's been true. That's what I've found. That I've never, when I needed them to promote a book or something like that, no one really came through for me. It's really true that, and I help some of those people with some big medical issues too, and taking care of their moms or dads and stuff like that. And none of them were able to come through for me when I needed them. Like, hey, do you mind like coming on so I can talk about my book or talk about this? No one helped me out. So it's really that kind of industry, and everything that you think about it is true. It's a very vacuous and inane existence for the overwhelming majority of people, and at least that's from one outsider's point of view from the inside.
What were you trying to get out of Survivor? Like, how'd you find out about this? What attracted you to it?
Okay, kind of a long story, so sorry,
Let's hear
but
it. No, I want to hear it.
All right. Well, I try to get, I always want to do this is a different universe. You have to think back to a 53-year-old guy when I'm young and 20 or something. I always want to become one of these medical talking heads on television, where it's, exactly what I became, Dr. Sean Kenniff, CBS News, wherever, right? So I want to become, but I didn't have, my dad's a New York City firefighter. My mom's a housewife. She's an Irish immigrant. I had no context on how to go and do that. So, but I pitched a show to MTV back in 1994, 93 called MDTV. And it was going to deal with I was 20, whatever it was, a doctor, 21. And I was going to, talk about cutting and ecstasy and anorexia and bulimia and stuff like that, things that are germane to the 12 to 24-year-old generation. And I got really far. I had a meeting with Nina Justman. We talked on the phone several times. She liked my pitch. They hooked me up with this guy, Seth Jarrett, who was doing Cindy Crawford's House of Style at the time. He was a producer for Redhead Productions. A funny story, one of the producers, my buddy Rob, we're still friends. He came out to the house, and they were producing at the time Beach House MTV. It's like, all right, Sean, we're getting ready for a pilot, right? It's like, let's see what you look like with your shirt off, in New York accent. Let's see what you look like with your shirt, because we might want to send you out to a fitness thing or a Beach House MTV. I take off my shirt in my New York City apartment. He's like, Sean, you hamburger eating disaster. We got to get you in the gym. So that worked out. I lost like 15 pounds. I cut up, and then the show never materialized. And that's been they promise, and then it goes away. And then MTV Productions put a show called Megadose Television on it, hosted by Kobe Jones, who was a soccer player at the time. A nice guy, good-looking kid, but not a doctor. And it was basically my idea. So I let Nina Justman have it, burned that bridge pretty good, and talking to them. But she said, "You're not going to get on TV not being a celebrity. I got news for you." So, that dream was been there. I always wanted to do that, and I didn't have a means to an end. So then I was working as an attending for like a year outside of I finished up my neurology residency and working as an attending, and my life was miserable. I was running from 3 different hospitals, working 100 hours a week. Everyone thinks it's not possible. It is possible. I still work 168 hours a week. I work 1 week, 24/7 for an entire week, and then I'm off for a week, which is this week. That's my schedule. So I was working about 100 hours a week. I lost a lot of weight. And I was like, you know what? Every minute that I spend doing this, my dreams of becoming a television doctor are slipping away, or doing this, or all these other creative, weird stuff I want to do are slipping away. So I just gave notice at my job. I didn't have any plan. I was going to do Doctors Without Borders, or I was going to do something called locum tenens, where you travel the country to impoverished neighborhoods and you work there, or rural neighborhoods. So I was going to do that, and then maybe start a column. I got some good advice. Start a column and take that column and shop it to magazines, and then maybe do a video column or some kind of other column, and then turn it into a TV show, and start that way. And so that's what I had planned to do. So the day I gave notice to my job, I went to my parents' house. I found a horoscope in that day that said, it was Sidney Omar's, I had it in my wallet, that's why I know. Sidney Omar's horoscope said, let go of encumbrances that hold you back needlessly, proceed in your own way. No, wait, something like that. Something about use your imagination and creativity, proceed in your own way. Don't let encumbrances hold you back needlessly. So I cut it out, put it in my pocket. I called my roommate, John, who was a neurosurgeon at University of Pennsylvania at the time. He was my roommate from med school. And he's like, you effing what? You quit your job? I was like, come down to Philly. Let's talk about it. So I jump on a train to Philly, going on the Acela train from New York to Philly. And I'm drinking in the beer car. I picked up a Time magazine, and I'm flipping through Time magazine. So on the backdrop of everything I did, and there was an article in there, A Star is Borneo, a column that they were looking for 16 ordinary Americans to try out for this new show called Survivor that they had planned. I ripped it out, finished drinking another 4 beers or whatever it was, however long it took me to get to Philly, and got out. I forgot all about it. I stuck it in my back pocket, and then we were at a bar, and I was commenting on how good looking all the women are in the Philadelphia bar that we were at. It's like, so what are you going to do with your life? And I was like, oh, I found this thing. Maybe I'll try out for this show. And he's like, well, if you get on that show, I will throw you the biggest going away party. And lo and behold, interview after interview, we went from one thing to another to another. Next thing you know, I'm in LA waiting to go to Borneo, and that's how it all happened. It all kind of happened very quickly. And here's another piece of life advice. I'm sure a lot of your listeners are more successful than I've been in my life. But at the same time, it's like I don't internalize my failures. I've had a heck of a lot of them. But the other thing is that I take big, bold chances, and I don't weed myself out. So when I'm filming, I didn't have a video camera, and that was one obstacle I had to overcome. Like, where am I going to get a video camera? I'm by myself trying to shoot my tryout video, and I'm coming up with 1,000 reasons not to do it. Everyone's going to laugh at you. You're a doctor. Everyone's going to, everything's going to, and they're like, you know what? Don't let that stand in your way. Just do it. And thank God I did it. Thank God I didn't let any of that stuff stand in my way, because I would have missed the opportunity of a lifetime. So I always just are very cognizant of that. You're going to have all these threshold guardians in life that are going to stand in the way of you and your goal. Just think of them as not roadblocks. I think of them as obstacles you got to get around and get over, and just keep pursuing what you want. Like, how badly do you want it? And just do it. Don't, whatever you do, there's so many people that are going to stand in your way. The last thing that you want to do is stand in your own way. And that could be from your own inertia. It could be from your own lack of self-confidence or your self-doubt. We all struggle with all these things, but don't let that stand in your way. And I think the real difference between being brave and acting brave is just a matter of perspective, right? I think everybody's afraid. Everyone's afraid of failure. Everyone's afraid of these things. And, being brave and just putting your fear aside and acting brave and faking it are actually the same thing, I think, for most people. So just, if you have something you want to pursue, whatever you do not weed yourself out, because you're going to encounter obstacle after obstacle, and it's going to be your job to smash through them. And if you're already self-defeating, you're never going to get there. So, but yeah, I wouldn't let that. I remember thinking like, this is going to be silly. I'm hitting back in the VHS days. I'm hitting the button, then running back into my shower. I had a funny, tape like, I just spent the last 12 days in this shower with these monkeys and this giant insect, whatever. So, running back in. Then my friend Denise calls, like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "You're never going to guess." And she's a doctor also a weirdo. And she came over and helped me with the videotape. But at the same time, I was like, I was very close to weeding myself out about 10 or 15 times before I got everything in. So, yeah.
That's some good advice to the listeners. Sean, here's a question I have is, were you thinking at all when you saw that ad, were you thinking, okay, this looks kind of like the Real World on an island? Because I know the Real World had come out maybe 7 or 8 years before that. That was really the first reality show. And if you watch the original Real World seasons and the first season or two of Survivor, the tone, the editing, it's eerily similar.
Yeah. I did. I had watched a little bit of the Real World, rather, and so it was very similar. I don't think Mark had any contact with them. I don't even think that Mark Burnett was a fan of the show. He took more of a military approach to this shooting, but he's just a wicked smart guy, and that's why it was so compelling. He's just a creative type, but also just a genius in any realm, and that's what he is, just a likable genius. So he did, really an amazing job. I don't know what kind of context, but I had context for the Real World, but I didn't have any idea that that's what was really going on out there. I knew it was a contest. I kind of consider it more of like a game show, maybe, out there. And you don't think you're making any good television when you're out there because the days are very long. So really, he made filet mignon out of mincemeat out there because there's a lot of mincemeat out on all the outtakes for sure. But yeah, no, I didn't really know what to expect with Survivor. I really didn't. And when you come home and it's a Nation's #1 TV show, it was kind of shocking that you're on the cover of every magazine. And yeah, it was really kind of nutty, kind of crazy. Yeah.
How much of the rules in the game did you understand or were explained to you before it started?
A lot. I mean, they give you a whole big thing about what you can and can't do, what you can and can't eat. There's no fighting, no violence, of course, stuff like that. They put you through a lot of testing, including like a multiphasic Minnesota personality inventory, an MMPI, to make sure that if you're pretending to be a B word, that you are actually a B word. If you're pretending to be a nice guy, you are actually a nice guy. That way, you're not going to hurt anybody or hurt yourself when you're out there. So, sorry, my throat's drying up, but yeah, so I kind of knew what to expect. I didn't know there wasn't gonna be zero food. I was like, they're gonna feed us, but there was zero food. I came back 6 pounds lighter than I weighed in 8th grade, my 8th grade wrestling weight. I came back 6 pounds lighter.
So did you guys understand that it was going to be 16 strangers, 2 different tribes, vote people out every 3 days, and then there's going to be a jury at the end that picks who wins? Or were you figuring out most of this on the fly?
I think we're figuring most of it out on the fly. I mean, some of the basic rules were set before we got there. I think we knew about the jury. We definitely knew 16 people, and of course, from the minute I got a story to tell about trying out, but
yeah,
I literally backtrack. So when we all try out, like now I'm one of like 80 people that was selected for interviews in Los Angeles. So when you go to Los Angeles, there's all these like things they put you through. And you land it was in Santa Monica, and you're not allowed to talk to anybody. So you can't talk to even the desk people. You can't talk to hotel people. You can't talk to other guests in the hotel. So you had all these young people there, and it was like a loner convention. Like everyone's like loitering in the lobby, and we can't talk to each other. Like you're looking at people, you kind of see people look like, I now in retrospect know that they were looking for certain archetypes or stereotypes. And I know who was like my surrogates there. I saw a couple of people kind of look like me. So I know that they were probably vying for my position and didn't get it. But there was other people, like a guy had tattoos all over his body, and I saw him stiff the waitress money. So I think that he was probably trying out for Richard's job, the villain. You know what I mean? But it's like a loner. You can't say anything to anybody. But they have all these like cool, like little things they put you through. I think I have an NDA, so I'm not allowed to say. There's those like psychological tests, which are really fun. I know I've told people over beers, so the NDA only goes so far. But I think in a public venue like this, I'm not, because they might still be doing the same interview techniques, and I don't want to violate. It's such a wonderful show with wonderful people in it. I wouldn't want to violate any of their confidence. But there was you and I over beer. I'll tell you a couple of stories that happened, during that interview process, which would just really make your head spin. It's really, really funny. But some of the stuff they put is very creative. Like the interview process is very creative. Some of the stuff they have you do. And it's not, I wouldn't say fun from the beginning, but it's very weird and challenging from the very beginning. And then next thing you know, you're on a flight to Borneo. But you sign your life away. You sign a big, thick contract. With everything, and so there's some of the rules were explained. But what was the question, Jack? Before I got lost in, what would you want to know?
Oh, I was wondering if you guys knew that you'd be voting people out and
Yeah, we knew
playing the
that. Yeah, we
game.
knew, but we thought there was also going to be only one winner. We didn't think anybody else would be getting any money. So I got voted off 3 days from the end. That was 5th place back then. I was the last person standing against the Tagi Alliance, and I made $65,000 for a month and a half of my life. So not a bad payday. But everyone got denominations in between, but I was still operating right up until that moment. I was still operating the assumption that there's only $1 million winner. I didn't think there was any money for anybody underneath that. But you're not allowed to talk to the producers out there, so you got to treat them like trees. So that was one thing that I can divulge. I think that in reality TV, it felt a little plastic. In the beginning, because you're standing around, it's let's say I'm talking to Jervis or Richard, and we're chatting quietly, and there's this guy holding a boom mic over you. There is a camera in your face, and there's a producer standing next to the cameraman. And sooner or later, when you're instructed not to talk to them, like treat them like trees, sooner or later, you realize that you can be pretty natural. Sooner or later, it felt like you're talking alone to Richard or whatever, because you ignore them. But you should know that all reality TV, that 90% of it, I would say 80, 90% is producer driven. They're like the other element in the story. So they're paying attention and watching. And then like, Sean, can you come talk to us over here in the bushes? And they take you over there. They set up a little reflector. There's no makeup or anything, but a little reflector to give you a little bit of good lighting or something. And they shoot the camera. Then they ask you questions, and you're told to paraphrase the questions. They don't want so you're not getting along with Sue today, right? They don't want to hear, right. That's not a good soundbite. They want to hear, oh, Sue's been on my ass all day, and I don't know why. They want to hear you paraphrase the question with your answer, So that's the one little tip they give you in terms of that, which was very helpful. But at the same time, it's 90%. So a lot of people ask me about the alphabet strategy. Like I knew that if I divulged my secret while I was voting in alphabetical order, that the producers would go over to Jenna. And the reason I was voting alphabetical, just in a nutshell, was that gave the appearance of being political neutrality, which is what I needed to win at the jury at the end. The young tribe, which was the Pagang tribe, was Jervis, Jenna, Colleen, Gretchen, and Greg. They were all at the front of the alphabet, whereas my tribe, the Alliance, Rich, Rudy, Sue, and Kelly, were all at the back end of the alphabet. This is after the merge. So I got to vote for them before I had to vote for my team, and I get this appearance of being politically neutral. Hey, it's the name your mom gave you, But I knew that if I told the producers why I was voting in alphabetical order, they would have gone over to Jenna or Colleen, and they would have been like, so do you think Sean's just being a nice guy voting in alphabetical order? Or do you think that it's because your whole tribe is at the front of the alphabet? And then they would have realized, so I was wary enough that the producers would have maybe affected my plan. Not that it worked out. I mean, it was working for a while. It kept me safe anyway, which was the point. I thought I was in a really good position. It got me to the final 5. It was me against, an older Rudy, who's a great guy, who subsequently has passed away. Rest in peace. Wonderful person. Kelly, who was, jockish and kind of whatever, but I can outbeat Rich in physical stamina, and Sue. So I thought I put myself in pretty good position using this strategy. So, yeah, and it kept me politically neutral. I think it would have favored me had I made it to the finals without anyone knowing why I was voting in alphabetical order. But it didn't work out that way. And trust me, I would have screwed up my life. I was a young man with $1 million. I would have screwed up my life. No doubt about it.
That's
Big
something
time.
I thought about recently with this. There's this gigantic lottery, and I was like, I don't think I want that much money at this age. Just
Yeah.
someone give me that much money? No, no thanks. But
Well, I think that lottery is totally rigged. I don't play multi-state lotteries because I do not think I mean I did that time because like $1.5 billion or something. Why not? I spent $2, but at the same time I think it's all rigged. It's just tax collecting, right? The last one went to Chicago. This one went to California. Just collecting. That's $1 billion. That's not a little bit of money. Like I have a sneaking suspicion this is just a way. It's a money grab, extra taxes. At least that's my gut. Maybe play a local lottery that benefits your state directly if you have confidence in your governance. But outside of that, I don't play by and large. But I always make, just to get on sports, which I know nothing about. It always amazes me that someone like Shaquille O'Neal, right? Now I know that no one's a perfect person, but Shaquille O'Neal seems like a pretty nice person, nice enough guy. 19 years old, dominates the league. Whenever he got to the NBA, dominates. He's like a star player. And at that level, at that age, how do you hold it together? I mean, to his credit, to stay out of trouble, to stay away from drugs, to not get hooked up with whatever, to make the right decision, even if that right decision is only putting the right people around you, even if that's still just a tremendous amount of wherewithal on behalf of Shaquille O'Neal that I know I did not have at his age. And I'm a board certified neurologist, like I definitely did not have that. I think $1 million probably would have wrecked me at that point.
that's a great point. Now back to alphabet strategy. So
Yeah.
this was all intentional. You had a
Yeah.
plan behind it. You did not want to verbalize that plan to anybody in production or anybody on the island. That's correct?
That's 100%. Now that I played stupid. I mean, to my detriment. I mean, listen, I'm a hapless, happy-go-lucky guy. I think that's clear even in this interview. I don't have a bad bone in my body, but I don't have a conniving bone in my body. I'm not the right person for a survivor. And just to circle back on why I never tried out again is even though they've asked me a couple of times, like it's never going to have the same effect for me personally. Right. I'm a married older guy. Like no one wants to see me out there. I mean, I know sometimes they try to convince like, oh, people are asking about you. No one's really asking about. I don't really care. But at the same time, it's like, what's in it for me? Like, I'm not gonna. It's never gonna be what it was. It's never gonna hit what it was. So there's no real incentive for me to go out there, and I'm not gonna be a hit for anybody. No one's like really begging for me to go out there. So it's never going to be the same. But in terms of the alphabet strategy, I want to keep it to myself. And I do a lot of dumb, silly things as we'll talk about. You guys will see how silly I can be. But at the same time, I was just out there to have some fun. It was the first vacation I ever took in my life. But I also had to pay off medical student loans. My dad's a New York City firefighter, right? I had to mortgage my future to become a doctor. So I would have paid them off all in one fell swoop, which was the plan. And I was really trying to, I didn't want to squander that opportunity. So I didn't know I was going to look stupid on there. I'm like, I'm just throwing them like, oh, maybe this is going on. I was like, oh, I don't think there's an alliance, and they air those and to the community. Once it's strung together, a bunch of making a bowling alley and do all the other dumb stuff I do in life. They're like, this guy's an idiot, out there. He's being an idiot. I was really thinking 100% out there. I was trying to win $1 million. And part of trying to win $1 million was acting stupid in front of the producers to not let on why I was voting in alphabetical order.
And you're gathering information about other people from what production is asking you. Is that correct?
Oh yeah, I was. I don't know about anybody else, but I was. It was like I remember one time just why Sue was mad at me. When I was building that bowling alley, right? Because like, oh, Sue's mad at you. Why do you think Sue's mad at you? And I was like, Sue's mad at me? Like, we always had like a younger brother, older sister relationship. I was like, she's mad at me? I didn't know she was mad at me. Like, I found out through that interview that Sue was mad at me, that I was on the rocks with Sue. You can glean information either directly or indirectly from what they're saying, but I was at least wherewithal enough that by the time I devised my alphabet strategy, I was like, I better not say this to anybody because it could get back to somebody.
And there's a lot of times where you guys say, hey, we heard about the other tribe caught a rat, or the other tribe did this. Was that coming from the production too? Like,
it must. I mean, yeah, it must have. I mean, I don't know. I think there was 1 or 2 periods like that. Like I heard they had fire or something like that where we didn't have fire. So I think that must have come from production. Like you don't. Oh yeah. So just to get back to like, we had to treat them like trees. You couldn't talk to them. You couldn't really say anything to them. And again, in the beginning, that felt a little plastic. At least Mark Burnett felt that everyone felt a little plastic. So he relaxed the rules for like a little bit, just like let them rely. Like you can engage a little bit with the production crew if you want, not a lot, but they'll say hey, good morning, stuff like that. But then it started to be like they started to get a little too chummy, I believe. And then Mark came down with the hammer again. That he's like, no, now you got to go back to being trees. Everyone's getting a little too. The men had been out there for a long time, and there's no women around, and we have like scantily clad women running around. So things were getting a little. I think a little. I wouldn't say anything odd happened, but I think that Mark kind of felt like, all right, everyone's more comfortable now. Once everything was more comfortable, he laid down the law again. All right, they're back to being trees. You can't interact with them unless they're asking you a question.
Did production play a factor in the boot of Stacey?
No, I mean, as far as I know, no. I mean, and I know that became a big court case, and I like Stacey a lot. But at the time, we were still competing as a team. And I'm an ex-jock, like I said, don't bounce a ball at me. Don't expect me to catch anything. But I could swim, I could box, and I could wrestle. I didn't know if those skills would be needed. But Stacey was none of those things. Stacey wasn't physically robust. And it really came down, and Rudy was a Navy SEAL. And those are who were deciding, was it Rudy or going to be Stacey? And Stacey just happened to be the one that I voted for because, even though I liked her and listen, she was attractive, there was no reason for me to get rid of like someone that, I didn't know it was going to be a love interest later on. As a guy, you're always thinking there could be. You go to the supermarket thinking there could be a love interest there. So, it was against my nature, maybe not have an attractive woman with me, but I really just made the decision based on just physical robustness, like who's more likely to help me in a challenge, because my goal was to advance myself in the game, and advancing myself involved advancing the team. And I thought that Stacey was more of a liability at that time than Rudy. Rudy was more of a personality liability because Stacey was a lot of fun. I got along with her well. But Rudy very much at the time, we hadn't really warmed up to his cantankerousness at the time. But at the same time, is like, for me, my decision was purely based on just physical challenges lay ahead and who we more likely to go forward with. At least that was my logic. But I know it became a thing, like a big conspiratorial thing. And as far as I know, that, the best of my recollection in a legal deposition, that was not the case. And I'll stand by that 100%. Yeah.
Very good. So for those who don't know, Stacey filed a lawsuit against CBS in early 2001, alleging that her exit from the show was orchestrated by production because they wanted to save Rudy, because Rudy ends up becoming this big fan favorite. And
Right.
the lawsuit alleged that you and Dirk were the two people that they pulled aside and said, hey, keep Stacey here. And so you are saying that did not happen. You can confirm that
No.
that did not happen.
Yeah, confirm it did not happen. I think Dirk says otherwise, but but as far as I listen, we're all starving out there.
So
but
yeah,
that
could have involved someone else, but it did not involve you.
No. But Dirk and I were good friends, still are good friends. He's a wonderful person. He's not a liar. So, his recollection and my recollection are two different things. Or maybe whatever speech was, we did talk on occasion to Mark and even Jeff Probst on occasion, but not often because he was hardly on the island. So it wasn't very frequently that we had any interaction with them. And certainly I don't remember anything like that. But again, Dirk is an entirely trustworthy human being. So, but again, you're out there starving. And, at this point, you were probably on day, I don't know what day it was, but, 10, 14, whatever it was, whenever she went home. Like, I do not, and there wasn't enough time for Rudy to become a fan favorite. Like, there was no reason for me to hang on to Rudy. You know what I mean? Like, it's a kind of spurious logic that he had been a fan. The show hadn't even aired yet. So it wasn't a fan favorite,
Right.
I didn't have any favoritism towards Rudy. I liked him because I liked his service and what he gave to our country. I liked who he was. But at the same time, it's like I didn't have any vested interest in keeping Rudy over Stacey, other than what I told you, just for to go forward. I mean, Rudy became a fan favorite because he's a spectacular human being. Longest serving enlisted man in military history, Navy SEAL. He ran the Navy SEALs. He petitioned Colin Powell to stay in service. He refused promotions just so he could stay as I mean, I'm not a military guy, as you can stay as an enlisted man. But then after he became a certain age, he had to petition on an annual or semi-annual basis to stay in the service as an enlisted man. I mean, he's a real American hero. They don't make guys like him anymore. But I mean, I liked him, but I also liked Stacey. But I mean, for me, my decision was based purely on what's going to make my likelihood of going forward better, and that was having Rudy on our side. You don't
I
know.
also
You don't know if there's going to be a knot making competition, or is there going to be a knife whittling competition? I mean, who knows what Navy SEALs can do? But that was my logic, or a swimming competition. At the time, we hadn't swam or anything yet. Navy SEAls can presumably swim and hold their breath. There was a lot of metrics that went into my decision.
there was another rumor that you might be able to, you might not even remember, but this involves Stacey as well, that they wanted to have you guys all for a reunion show, but in your contracts, this was the rumor that I had heard, that you were going to be on X number of episodes and they wanted you to basically do the reunion show for free. And she had pointed out, as a legal person, no, you have to pay us for this reunion show. Do you remember any of that? Or
I don't remember. I went just happily. I don't care.
Well, it
Much
was
to
in
my
New
wife's
York, so
dismay.
it was easy for you.
Yeah, much to my wife's dismay, I've never ever been motivated by money. So I make plenty of money. Thank God. God's always provided for me.
Amen.
Yeah, but at the same time, I've never chased it. In the Bible, not to get too biblical, it says that the love of money is the root of all evil. It's not money itself; it's the love of money. I've never loved money enough to really care about it, and it's always been provided. I've always had enough. So God, all power to God for that. But at the same time, I don't remember any of that. I would, if they called me today, Sean, we're getting everybody back. We'll fly you out there. We'll put you up in a hotel. I'm not going to pay myself to go anywhere, but we'll put you in a hotel. You'll appear for free. Would you do it? I said, sure. I don't care. Like, what do I care? Anything to make my life interesting, get everyone back together. I'd be fine with that. So, but
I
yeah,
mean,
but
it was a good opportunity for you guys, no doubt.
yeah. Yeah, no, and it was, why would you not want to be there? It doesn't make any sense. Like, for what are you gonna do? Standard industry standard, $4,000, 3,000. Like, what's gonna make or break you that you wouldn't want to be there on the nation's #1 TV show? Like, why wouldn't you want to be there? Doesn't make any sense.
Well, we
Stacey's a
can,
lawyer, so they know these things. I don't know.
Sean, we can get biblical because you went there. My faith is the number one top priority in my life, is my relationship
Yeah.
with Jesus
As a
Christ.
Christian, yeah.
Yeah. Have you shared that faith your whole life? Was there a time in your life where faith became more important to you?
Yeah, all right. Now I'm gonna really go there. Okay, so I was
Let's do it.
born Irish Catholic. My parents, made me go to church. We went to church. I've been confirmed, baptized in the Catholic Church. But all the things that went down there. First of all, and again, I don't mean aspersions against any great priests that are out there by any means. They by far outnumber the bad priests. But I had priests with such inertia, like they just didn't inspire at all. I went to church my whole youth, and I never once had an inspiring speech. And I do like the tradition, and I do like the ritualistic nature of Roman Catholicism. I liked it. I enjoy that. I enjoy it now, even though I don't go to Roman Catholic Church. And then I became sort of an agnostic. And as an agnostic, I became more of a scientist, that it was hard for me to believe that some guy is up there in a cloud with bolts of lightning in his hand, watching over your good deeds and my bad deeds. And I understand that makes very little intuitive sense. And so I was kind of an agnostic. And then if anybody, and I know speaking to a true Christian like you probably are, I mean, I try to be a good person. I'm a really horrible Christian. I don't go to church much. I can't say a single Bible verse, not even the one from Pulp Fiction, yay, if you walk through the valley, whatever. Not even that one. I don't even know it. My wife is better with it, but I'm more Christian now. And here's how it happened. So I was driving down from New York to Miami, where I was moving to. And after you pass a certain latitude or Mason-Dixon line, you start hearing a lot more church on the AM radio as I'm driving. And so I started listening. Some of them were really good. So that was like the first creak in the door. Some of them were really good and inspirational. I was like, oh, that was really nice after listening for like an hour. That was good. That was meaningful to me. So I was kind of open to it. And then I was watching Flip Around the Dials. I was all by myself down here. My family's still up in New York. And by myself, watching TV late at night. I was not in a low place. I'm a happy, effervescent guy. I've always had a great job. And but I was by myself. So maybe the loneliness got to me. But I was flipping the dials and I saw Joel Osteen, Pastor Joel Osteen from Lakewood Church. And listen, Joel Osteen's like me. He's got this long mullet head, long mullet hair. He's got this big Irish potato head looking thing. Just not, no offense to him, he's like a lovely guy, but I was like, I stopped the dial only to hear my New York my New York brain was saying, let me hear what this a-hole is saying. So I stopped it and I listened to him. God is my witness. It was as if everything that he said that day was immediately pertinent to my life and germane to my life in that one sermon he gave. I don't remember what it was about, but at the same time, it was not only germane, it was like immediately applicable. This is knowledge I needed at that moment. So I know that a lot of more serious Christians will cast aspersions on Joel Osteen for being the gospel of what's it, wealth or whatever it is,
Prosperity gospel.
Prosperity gospel. That's the word I'm looking for. So I get that. I totally do. But I think they're really missing the point of Joel Osteen, because I was I wouldn't say atheist. I was agnostic, kind of hoping for a God, but not really believing in a God, an atheist. But I was more agnostic. And Joel Osteen was that turning point for me. He was that fulcrum. He was that little hook in the water that got me in the gills, that pulled me in. And now I've become a better person and a better Christian because of that. I still watch him from time to time. We go to a local church here from time to time. Like I said, it's still a horrible Christian, but you're not going to meet a more
Sean, you cut
faithful
out.
person. I don't convert anybody. So I don't want to proselytize. I'm not looking to convert anybody. God did not put me here for that reason. I was sitting at lunch and just the other day with two of my residents. One's Hindu, one's Muslim. But when they ask me about my faith, I freely share it. And so when you talk about faith, like, I know it makes no sense that in scientific rationale that there's a guy, a man up there watching over you, your good deeds and my good deeds. But you don't have to understand it. God's ways are not your ways, right? We're human. We're not supposed to understand what God's can do. And looking for proof of a scientific sense is the opposite of faith, right? Faith is believing in something despite there being no logical or rational proof. Like, that's the meaning of faith. So you can still have faith and not believe in it. But I made a scientific choice, as irrational as that sounds, to start believing again, much like a kid believes in Santa or the Easter Bunny. I made a scientific choice to believe in. And here's how I got there. Is that after watching that Joel Osteen sermon, I felt better. It filled that whatever they call a God-shaped hole. I felt better by doing it. So I started thinking about God and religion. Is that, all human civilizations have believed in a God or gods, like every single human civilization. So maybe that's something innate. Maybe it's something we're born with, like turtle hatchlings. When they hatch in the sands, they scurry towards the water because they know that's where their life is. Every human civilization has either, if you want to use the word invented, has had gods or worship gods. So worshiping God seems to maybe be an innate human set point. Like, that seems to be an instinct, if you will. Why fight that instinct? And as someone who's been a former agnostic and close to atheist and a scientist, like, I felt, even with that, I felt like I was always fighting the tide, like something was pulling me back. And I really felt that it's not easy to be agnostic. It's not. So I was like, you know what? As a doctor, if I had a pill that would make you, in your times of trouble, times of fear, times of sadness, make you feel comforted, secured, protected, wouldn't you take that pill? Of course, religion does that for you. And if I had a pill that in times of happiness and success and prosperity, that it would keep you humble, wouldn't you take that pill? Right. So I started thinking about it. I was like, of course I take the pill, because I felt so much better after watching that one sermon of Joel Osteen. And so I was like, of course. So I was like, I'm just going to start believing in God. I'm just going to just make a choice, make a sign that it's going to make me feel better. And, in my times of stress, it's going to make, because I started talking to God again. I talk to God and still talk to God on my way to work, and I talk to God on my way home. And we share the same God. I talk to Jesus. That's who I talk to. Or I like to call heaven's hippie, that like I just, that's why I don't hate anybody. I don't care about anyone's political opinion. Just live my life. And I talk to Jesus on my way to and from work. That's what I do. And I pray for, it gives me a point to pray for people. It gives me a focal point of people who are still fresh in my mind. So that's really the extent of my religion. And, it's really weird, even though as ludicrous as it sounds, that there's some guy up there in a hat watching over you at a crown, and that once you started talking to God again, like, your life, I swear on my life, becomes testimony that there has to be somebody up there watching over you, protecting you, watching your missteps, rewarding good deeds. Like, as ludicrous as that sounds, and I'll acknowledge it sounds ludicrous, like, my life has completely become testimony to that since I just started talking to God. And to give, like, I was super successful for all that success. I'm not any less. I'm not in the nation anymore. At this point in my
Sean, you're cutting out again.
Yeah.
Okay, you're back now.
Are we back? All right.
Yeah.
So, but but your life will become testament once you make that decision. So let's move on from God, I guess, because God's trying to stop me from saying something I don't mean. I guess God's chiming in. Either that, or maybe it's Satan, maybe it's the devil. Who knows? But still, it's something's trying to stop us.
Well,
Yeah.
here's a good transition here.
Yeah.
So it's funny, we talked about Dirk. Dirk spoke at my church when I was a
Yeah.
kid. And I mean, it was in Winnetka, Illinois, and I was in Sunday school, so I didn't get to see him. But I mean,
Yeah.
again, this was how big you guys were, but
Yeah.
also, if you're talking about Dirk as a man of faith and, a leader and a
Yeah.
shepherd. Yeah, he spoke at our church.
He's the best that
Pretty cool.
humanity has to offer, no doubt about it. He's a good person, no doubt. So, I know that our depositions kind of went in different directions, but at least I'm told. I haven't seen his, but again, he could not be a better, nicer person. I mean, he's the best that humanity has right there.
Uh, what were some of the things that you guys did to pass the time that we just didn't see on TV? Like what are some of the cool stuff that we only saw a
Nothing,
tiny bit?
nothing. It's
Nothing.
deadly boring. You get up there, you got to go into the jungle. You got to find water. That's like an hour trek. Like, and the trek to tribal council is like 2 hours through the jungle. It is not like around the corner and there's a set there. Like, you trek through the jungle for like 2 hours at night. It's horrible. And then you wait there once you get there till all the cameras are set up, and horrible. It's a lot of downtime. And you sleep, you wake up, you go hunting for food. You're building your thing. You're constantly working on your lean-to or whatever to keep it upright. Just a lot of downtime like that, looking for food, looking for firewood. That's all that it is. And so that's why I built the bowling alley, because like no one's having any fun out there. It's 3 days. I was like, listen, we got coconuts, we have bamboo. We just got to be able to chop them into make pins, and then we can at least play a game, And I got my head handed to me for trying to have some fun out there.
By
But
Sue,
still,
probably, right?
by Sue and Richard, everyone. But meanwhile, like I was definitely one of the hardest workers out there. I did so much work. I collected firewood. I helped build the lean-to. I struggled to make fire. Like, I was not lazy. I don't have a lazy bone in my body. So what? I was working really hard on making a bowling alley. I think we all would have had fun if they would have let me finish it. But I figured staying on the island was more important than bowling a few frames. So I gave up on my dream.
Did they ever ask you guys to reshoot conversations? Like, I've heard about this from
Never,
people. Never.
never,
So they
never. Not
never like didn't they caught everything as it happened, or was there any time like, oh shoot, we missed that? We'd like you guys to redo that conversation.
There was one thing where that happened to me. My only personal experience with this is that one time I was explaining something. I have a lot of weird thoughts and do a lot of weird things, like I've told you, and we'll touch upon a little bit on that before we leave.
Yeah.
But I was explaining one of my weird theories on something, why civilizations become extinct. And I just started, and I drew something in the sand, and I guess one of the crew came over, and Jervis was probably like looking at, like, I don't know what the hell he's talking about, something, made some kind of face. And then they said, well, I just started. So the cameras weren't there. I was like, can you start again? And I started again. I was maybe 40 seconds into the spiel that I was in. I don't know. But that never aired. So, but that was the only, so to say that it does happen, it might happen, that is not the norm. Like I said, that segment might not have aired because they did reshoot it, for all I know. Maybe they don't do it, but that was not the norm out there. Everything was pretty improvisational and right up to the minute. I never saw anything get reshot. Sometimes, like, the walk down the beach would get reshot. Like, okay, guys, stay there, and then we'd start walking. Like, no, go back. Okay, now start walking. Like, that's stuff. I mean, that's all production. That happens, but I've never seen anything like, wait, you guys are fighting? Start fighting all over again. Like that. That never happened. So nothing like that.
There's one scene. The only part of the reason why I asked that was there's Sue and Kelly have an argument, and the way that it's shot on TV looks like it's a reenactment, or maybe it's just heavily edited because we're only seeing little clips of the conversation, obviously, because the conversations go on much longer.
Yeah,
But the way it does seem like it's the only thing in the whole season where I'm like, oh, that kind of looks like they said, hey, can you guys do this again? Which, by the way,
was that after I got voted off? It sounds
it
like
could
it
have
might
been.
have been.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it may
might
have
have
been
been.
right after. Yeah.
Because, I'm an honest person. Like, I definitely would, like, I would have been
Yeah.
like, this isn't right. I
Or
would have
you
said
might, I mean,
something.
you might not have been there
Yeah.
when it happened. You could have been
Yeah.
on the water or doing
I mean,
something
I
with
wouldn't
it.
have
Or
overstepped the. I mean, we're making a TV show. I'm not gonna be like, let me produce the show. I wouldn't have done that, but I would have been like this. I would tell you if I saw that, but I mean, I definitely didn't. So it might have occurred after me, not say it wouldn't have, but I mean, I
yeah.
definitely, in the 36 days that I was in, is a 39-day contest. I got voted off on day 36. I saw nothing like that. Yeah.
Why didn't anyone else form an alliance and play the way that the Tagi Four played?
I don't have any idea. I don't have any idea. I mean, I didn't want to. I want to maintain political neutrality. I made a conscious decision, but I was fully aware of the alliance. I mean, despite what I was saying, I was fully aware. It was not a secret. Amongst our tribe, it wasn't a secret. And I felt that it bettered me to have them voting in block until they were coming for me, let them vote for the other people. And I'm still going to stay politically neutral. So I didn't have any vested interest in letting they're all friends, my Jerish, Jenna, Colleen, Gretchen, Greg, we stay in touch, I didn't have any vested interest in letting them know. I had medical school loans to pay off. So.
Do you think it could have been part of the ethics and also how you might look on TV? Do you think people were
Well, for me, that definitely was part of it. I couldn't go out there and act like a dirtbag. I mean, I can go out there and act silly. And listen, in terms of, I am a silly person. You're going to see, I got a lot of wonderful love mail after Survivor. I also got some hate mail. Listen, I'm a smart person and I was doing my best out there the whole time. But any given one of us, there's a camera in your face 24 hours a day. You're going to have your moments of genius today and you're going to have your moments of complete idiocy today. And that's just human nature. That's what's going to happen. And it's all what the producers want to string together for you. They can either make you look like a complete boob or they can make you look like the smartest man on the earth. So, that's what it was. Listen, I am a dorky yuppie, right? Even though I'm a doctor, I made it on, the nation's #1 TV show. I was there. I thought I was there to be like the cool, young, hip doctor. And I was there as like the dorky, yuppie, useless out in the jungle. But I fit that bill. That's what I am. I'm a clever guy. I'm a smart guy. I'm a really good doctor, but I'm useless with bamboo. I'm useless out in the jungle. I don't know how to start fire. I'm very good with textbook smart, not good with, I'm very naive with a lot of things. So I filled a role for them that they happened to be looking for, probably just by my nature. And that's true, and listen, if you can't laugh at yourself, then you're having a very humorless life. And I think we should all laugh at ourselves. So I can laugh at myself. It takes a lot of thick skin to have people on national TV call you a loser and have them call you what an idiot and stuff like that. But at the same time, I have fortunately very thick skin, and I made it through. But at the same time, I knew what I was doing out there, and like I said, I was just trying to have some fun and change up my life a little bit.
So did that have any kind of impact on you? The negative reaction?
Yeah, I mean, it did. It certainly did. But like I said, you gotta have thick skin for anything. And fortunately, my dad, he instilled in me this, like, there's some kind of saying on my own that you can't be beat if you don't retreat. Just my dad always had a saying, just pick up the pieces and be a winner, and like, it doesn't rhyme. It doesn't do anything. There's nothing catchy about it, but that's a great rule in life to live in. Just pick up the pieces and be a winner. You're a winner. So yes, I know your life's in shambles right now, but pick up the pieces and be a winner. And that's all it is. If you just remember that in the back of your head every time you fail, because God knows I fail all the time, just pick up the pieces and be a winner. The world's for you to take. It's your world. It's your ride. Go be the star.
Did you watch? How long did you keep watching Survivor after that? Did you watch?
Up till Rupert's first year. So that's only like Survivor 4 or something like that. I forget. And after that, whatever. I lost touch with that. I just couldn't keep it going. And then I fell in love with The Bachelor. I loved watching The Bachelor for a while because I have a wife. And so we got really to that for a while. Now we're a 98-day fiance, or 90-day fiance rather. So we watch that all the time. That's the greatest train wreck ever made on television. So we watch that. But, I don't really watch it. But again, it's nothing against Survivor because, I mean, I'm so eternally grateful to Survivor, the whole crew, starting with Mark and Jeff. I know the show's changed a lot, and a lot of the purists wanted to go back the way it was. But, you got to change things up. You got to make it fresh. You got to make it new. I understand that need in television. Otherwise, otherwise the show would have been over a long time ago if they didn't innovate. So, it's still in the top 10, I think. It's still making it every week. It's still in the top 10, which is incredible. But like I said, just know if you're a fan of the show, the people at the top of that show could not be better people. I mean, I know that so many people are like, oh, he's an idiot. These people, that Jeff this and that person that. I know those people personally. They're good people. They did their best to make a great show, and they really believe in the show. They believe in what they're doing, and I think at the end of the day, they're trying to make good television for everybody. The world is changing underneath their feet, so you got those shifting sands to try to keep your balance on. The universe is changing, the electronic universe, everything's changing underneath their feet. And to have fans be like, oh, why are they doing that? Why are they doing that? Because I know there's a lot of animus, particularly for the last season. But at the same time, it's like there's shifting sands on every single landscape that television show is standing on. What do you expect them to do? You keep playing the old same game, you're gonna lose more people than gain for sure. But yeah, just rest assured that there's good, smart people. Mark Burnett's probably one of my favorite people I've ever met in my life. Jeff Probst's also a good person. So just know that when you're watching the show with your viewership, you're probably sponsoring some pretty good people.
Yeah, I also don't. I stopped watching probably a couple of years ago. I just didn't come back after COVID, but I did watch the first 40 seasons. I do think that around the time you stopped watching, like up through that point, I think is the golden era of the show. I think it was just part of the thing what I think is so fascinating is the ethical, like this, when you guys played, there were all these psychologists that were writing studies and doing stuff on this show saying like, this is going to mess people up. They're building this community and they're being kicked out of the community and society. And I think that kind of like, is it ethical to be in an alliance? Is it ethical to gang up and vote people out? And I think once everyone figured out how to play, it turned into an entirely different show, for better or for worse. And that version of the show I watched for a really long time. And that's the version of the show some people prefer. For me, I love just that kind of, we're going to take 16 everyday people and they're going to go on this adventure together and they're going to build something together. And that was what attracted me to it.
Yeah, no, it was great. That's why I got on the show. I was like, this sounds really fun, so yeah. But yeah, no, it's just been great, and like I said, kudos to them for keeping it going. I can't believe it's still on the air, but I'm not judging the show. I'm just saying as someone who's been in Hollywood and, there's this saying that out there that success is a stale finale. Again, not my saying. And once you get up to the Nation's #1 TV show, you're like, oh, this is all it is. Like, I'm telling you, that's really true. Like, oh, this is what it is. Oh, this is what the behind the velvet rope is. This is what these Hollywood parties are. And, it is a little stale. And so once you get there, and then the road to ruin, I mean, think about like, people who are up at the top of their game, like from Katie Couric or actors or whatever, like you're hot one day, you're not there the next. Like it's a very precarious business. And, while the road to success in that business is very much filled with detours and obstacles, but once you're at the top, like it's an express lane on the way down, man. And you're going to hit a lot of hard shit on the way down that mountain. You're going to hit corners and twigs and stems and, so it's hard. So anyone that stays at the top of that industry, whether you're talking about like Madonna or whoever, like people who managed to stay at the top, that did not come easy. Whether you're Brad Pitt, Madonna, Ben Stiller, whoever your favorite person would be, to stay that relevant for that long is a near impossibility. Because as you can see, most people from reality TV, like they spark for a little bit, they go right out. Spark, and then they go right out. And that's how it is for most TV stars, whether they're actors, whatever. They get one hit role and they're out. And then they're done. Then they do anything else after that, there has been. Just go away, right? You had your moments. You had your 15 minutes. Get out of here. Like America hates you. Go away. Notable exception, maybe Julia Louis-Dreyfus. She's back in several iterations, and I love her in every one. But at the same time, is like for most people, it's like a flash in the pan, and then you're gone, and which is it's a bad thing to aspire to. If there's anyone listening that is like, oh, I want to be a movie star, I want to be this. Just know that statistically speaking, you're highly likely to be a flash in the pan, even if you do become successful, and then you'll be reviled for the rest of your life if you do anything else. So I remember when I was being asked when Survivor 2 was on, we were commenting on the show, and E! Entertainment Television asked me to come on with Jervis, Joel, whoever, and analyze the Survivor 2, which I was watching, the second set. But then after a while, I kind of felt like, what am I doing here? Like No one wants to see me analyze and say and reanalyze this game. I'm a has-been. And it's their time to shine. I don't want to be in the limelight for Survivor anymore. I want to be in the limelight for other things I want to do. I don't want to be in the limelight. I got other plans. I don't want to do that, and I felt like I was being really used. And I felt like I was also using the system. It wasn't a good feeling. Like, here I am. Remember me, Sean from whatever, and here's what I think is going on in the show. Like, I didn't like any of that. And it made me feel cheap. And, I think we all know what feeling that is. And I didn't like it. And fortunately, I had the wherewithal to get out when I did. And that's when again, I was doing CBS News at the time. I had a lengthy TV career after that. Still kind of on the cusp of that. But I mean, so, I got a lot of fun things to do in my life. I don't want to be a one-trick pony. We all had Wikipedia pages. Like, the world's been at war with me this year. We all had Wikipedia pages up until recently. And then the Wikipedia editors took them down. I'm like, wait a minute. I've published 3 books. I was a CBS network correspondent. I did all this stuff in my life. And my book, one was read by, reviewed by Archbishop Desmond Tutu, who won a Nobel Prize, and Jane Goodall. I'm a doctor. I do a lot of great things in my life. I invented the jerk at work, which we'll talk about. I do all these weird, interesting things, and they're going to take down my Wikipedia page. Like, no, sorry, you're always going to be associated with Wikipedia. And someone who came to my defense in the editorial discussion was like, well, wait a minute. Survivor was the #1 TV show, and I had that year more than 100,000 hits on my Wikipedia page. Just being me, being a has-been from Survivor, more than 100,000 hits on my Wikipedia page. Or maybe it was even the last month. I forget what the argument was. Something like astronomical, just because I was on Survivor. But meanwhile, the person who was like the Olympic 1914 skeet shooter will still have a page, even though he's had 5 hits in the last 50 years or something. You know what I mean? Like, or since the internet's been invented. So they would make an argument like, of course we should transition all these, at least the original series of the reality players to a Wikipedia page. But they took them down. And you know what? Wikipedia was probably doing me more bad than good at some point. Because now people would always associate me with Survivor, not my neurological work. Now when people Google me, they get my books, they get my neurology, they get all the stuff that really matters in life. They see pictures of me and my kids. Like, they don't get the alphabet strategy necessarily in Survivor, So everything in my life has happened for a reason, like we talked about when we talked about faith. So I said, you know what? My last word to the editors when they were going back and forth, because I don't think anyone else contested it, but my last word was like, listen, a general rule in life, if it feels wrong, it probably is wrong. And there's not a doubt in my mind that this feels wrong to the majority of you people. You're just being spiteful of Wikipedia editors for whatever jealousy or whatever they might have. And if it feels wrong, it probably is wrong. But, have a nice life. In the end, this is going to work out to my advantage, not to my detriment. So please take my Wikipedia page off. And they did. So,
All right. I got one more Survivor question. We can talk some of the other fun stuff going on.
Yeah.
So you were a member of the first jury, and it was a very close vote. It was 4-3. Richard won. And obviously, if you had swung the other way, the outcome would have been different. How did you and the rest of the jury members arrive at that decision? Why did Richard win?
Yeah, well, I mean, to me, it was, I'm a fair play type of guy. I like Kelly, but Kelly really, and I don't think she likes me much anymore, obviously, for some reason, but still, but she doesn't really talk to many of us, and she's a bit bitter. I mean, I can't imagine why, but at the same time is when I think Kelly's nice, we got along, but she was not the fulcrum of that team at all. Like, she didn't invent the alliance. She wasn't the best wood collector. She wasn't the best food provider. She wasn't the craftiest player. She hung on, and to her credit, she hung on. But at the same time, she didn't really earn it there. And Richard, let me tell you, he's a friend of mine. We still talk occasionally, very occasionally, like once a year, every couple of years. But, I went to visit him in Rhode Island after he won the $1 million. I was working for the TV show Extra, and I saw him put the money in the bank. He is exactly what you think he is. I mean, he's annoying and despicable in some ways, but he wears it on his shirt, on his sleeve. He's like, yeah, I'm a horrible human being. Isn't that great? He doesn't care, and think about the mental gymnastics that someone like that had to go through to get to where he got to. And that was my decision making. I was like, that guy is so freaking annoying. And he crafted the whole show. And it's like, and think about the mental gymnastics that it took for him to get there, that he absolutely earned it. Whereas Kelly, I didn't think so. I liked Kelly better maybe at that time as a human being, but Richard definitely earned it. And I don't believe in awarding someone who hasn't earned something. And I also don't believe in depriving something of their rightful due when they've earned it. And Richard clearly earned it. And that was my logic behind it.
Awesome. Well, Sean, you have hinted at it for the past hour and a half.
Yeah.
You've got a lot of cool, fun stuff going on.
Yeah, if anyone's still hanging on and listening this far, I mean, I doubt it.
Oh, everyone is. You kidding me? Come on.
I listen to a podcast for like the first 15 minutes. I get to work and then I'm done.
You're Gen X. That's Gen X.
Yeah.
Us millennials, we listen to the whole thing.
I hope so. I'm a full-fledged weirdo, first and foremost, which a lot of people may not know about me because I'm kind of responsible in my day life. But I've always been weird. Like I told you, I try to get on MTV. I'm a former boxer, wrestler. I've always done weird things my entire life. And so I continue to do weird things. So the one thing that I want to know about right now, probably first and foremost, is the jerk at work. I don't have a dollar because I haven't been able to make it, but the jerk at work, if you go to the jerkatwork.com. It's a wonderful product. Okay. Go to the jerkatwork.com.
I'm going to order one, by the way, Sean. I'm buying one. I need it on my wall here. I need it.
Oh, definitely. I'll send you one, Jack.
Awesome.
So listen to this story. This is like a total Sean Kenniff-esque story. So I'm on my way to work in 2018, and I'm working Christmas. Now, mind you, I work in a neurology office that has a lot of Jewish doctors, I'm the only Christian there. I have a few Muslim partners, a few, Christian, but also that the kids are older. And I have little kids and I'm working Christmas. And it's a skeleton staff in the holidays. I'm like, why am I working Christmas? I feel like I'm the only jerk at work. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to invent a doll like the elf on the shelf, but called the jerk at work. And here's a lot of it. The elf on the shelf is not a real magical elf, but the kids think it is, right? It's a magical elf, and it's one of Santa's helpers. It goes back to the North Pole at night, tells Santa whether or not the kids are good or bad. That's not the jerk at work. The jerk at work is an actual doll. There's no fable behind it. But he's upset that he's working during the holiday season, like I was, so he decides to pull pranks on his coworkers. So imagine going to the break room and there's Christmas cookies out there and you bite into it and there's toothpaste on it instead of the icing, and sitting right there, it's the jerk at work. Or you go to the bathroom and you find out that all the toilet paper has been taken away and duct tape is in its place, and it's the jerk at work holding a sign that says, this is going to get sticky. So, it's all a prank thing that you pass around the office during the holiday season as a holiday hot potato, it's like for people on the Santa's naughty list, for something to have fun with during the holiday season. I made some improvements on the elf on the shelf. It's about the size of the elf, but he's posable, so he can hold anything, any pose you want. And there's like limitless pranks you can do with it in the office. So we made a really funny infomercial. I designed the doll myself. I prototyped it myself. I sourced manufacturers over in China myself. I designed the packaging myself. I sourced packaging overseas. I patented it myself. I trademarked it myself. I wrote the comic book and hired a comic maker to write it. And then I wrote that. I sourced warehousing over here in the United States of America. All that is like the learning. It makes you wonder, how does a toaster even get invented, right? I did all that stuff. So I started in 2018. I didn't even get my prototype till after the holidays in 2019. It's a heck of a lot of work. So I was like, okay, 2020 is going to be my year. 2020 vision, blah, blah, blah. It's going to be great. I'm going to launch in 2020, follow all my TV contacts and all this other stuff. And I have the doll sitting in a warehouse. 2020 comes, St. Patrick's Day, around that area, March or something, the whole universe shuts down because of COVID. And with it, all the earthly offices and workplaces, this is a doll for the job, for the workplace. And everything shuts down. So I had no market. So I thought about launching last year. So I waited out 2020, almost got it on Shark Tank. That's another story. I have an NDA about that, but I almost got it on Shark Tank.
Okay.
So I have an NDA. I can't really say anything about that, but it's still, anyway, I have an NDA, I can't say. But anyway, so that was 2020. 2021 comes around, only 8% of the American workforce is back. So I'm like, all right, I gotta wait out another year. The whole time I'm holding these things in the warehouse. So now's my year. So I beg everyone to please go to thejerkatwork.com. Don't go to jerkatwork.com because that might be a different kind of website. Okay, so go to thejerkatwork.com. All right. And you can see our funny infomercial there. We have a great YouTube, not a great channel, but we have a great infomercial on our YouTube
channel.
Yeah,
the infomercial's hilarious. It's great.
Yeah, we're the number one hit on both of them. Okay. So if you just type in Google The Jerk at Work, you'll get our videos and you'll get our website. and order a jerk at work. You start having fun at work. I'd really appreciate if you do. You're supporting a good person. And like I said, I worked really hard on it. Every aspect of that doll was me. It's my do or die year. And so if you're a Survivor fan, or if you like me, or if I don't turn your stomach, please just order one and start having fun. So that I did, and I worked really hard. Like, I do my homework. I worked really hard. It's a great product. Every time I'm in Target, like, my boxes are nicer than anything else they have on the shelves. Like, I have, nicer packaging, nicer doll, better quality doll than anybody else. I think you'll be really impressed with the job that I did with it. And it's on Amazon. You can buy PayPal. You can buy any way you want. Everything's secure. And like I said, everyone's going to be very happy with it. And I'd appreciate the support. And then I also do like all other crazy things. Like the movies.
Wait. We got to pause on the jerk at work.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I think it's really cool. I didn't know about it until you and I got in contact recently, and I saw your Twitter account like a week ago, and I watched it. And I'm like, this is a cool thing. This is fun. So you guys, is that part of your culture at work? Do you guys like pull pranks on each other for fun?
No, I mean, I did before I get in TV station, yeah, but not it's too much of a serious. I mean, I'm dealing with brain tumors. I'm dealing with, it bleeds in the brain. I don't have I work 1 week, 168 hours, and then I'm off for a week. So my work weeks are, I don't have a minute to spare. It's all brain power all the time, and there's no laughing. And then, then I live my wild life on the side. So yeah, but when I was in the TV station, we pull pranks and stuff like that on each other all the time. It's fun. And like I said, it's not, it's not that I have a trajectory for this. I see, Big Jerk on campus with the college t-shirts at some point, in frat houses.
Yeah.
And I see, an April Fool's jerk at some point. I see Valentine's jerks, wedding jerks. There's a whole big industry, I think, that can be exploitable, and then accessories for all that. But right now it's just the jerk at work. And like, I designed the logo. I mean, there's not an aspect of that thing that I did not design myself. And like I said, it's doing well. It's okay. But this is my 1 year to blast it out. We're 1 month away from Christmas. It's selling, but I'd like to sell through my inventory. Otherwise, I can't really justify going through it again. I don't have far to go through my inventory, but still, I can't justify waiting another year on it. I just can't. So this is the year. So I'd appreciate any support that you and your viewers would have.
Yeah,
I appreciate being able to talk about it. So I think I think everyone who, even if someone who hates me is like I said, that Kenniff kid's pretty cool. He invented something really fun here. It's really quite something.
It's really cool. Yeah, I'm gonna get one. Everyone should support Sean. Mm-hmm. Guys, check it out. thejerkatwork.com, right? That's the website.
Yep, the Jerk at Work.
Yeah.
Yep.
Jerk at Work, thejerkatwork.com. Guys, check it out. Yes, and you've written some books as well, Sean.
Yeah, so back in 2010 when I lost my job at CBS, imagine, like, I was like working as a doctor and also doing my producer. I produced everything for CBS News all by myself. I interpreted statistics for them. And I show up one day and my job's eliminated. I felt like I was a cow. This is where people lost their homes, lost their jobs, or 2009, 2010. So I went to live with cows out in the South Florida area for 40 days. And I wrote a book about it called Etra the Cow. And that was the one that was reviewed by Jane Goodall, Archbishop Desmond Tutu, did very well. So that was fun. But I also write, and then like, I was going to tell you, like, I'm just a crazy person, so I pitched a movie. It always bothered me, in backtrack, that I'm a big fan of Meet the Parents, the movie Meet the Parents, Meet the Fockers, and then Little Fockers. I thought Little Fockers were good, even though that was panned. I thought it was all good. But I'm a big fan of Ben Stiller in general. So I always thought that they blew it by never making Fockers Without Borders, okay? A movie where, if you know the layout, like Greg Focker's a nurse, Ben Stiller's a nurse, and his father-in-law is Robert De Niro. He's a CIA spy. So the international intrigue is there. How did they miss the ball to not write Fockers Without Borders, where there's an earthquake in Papua New Guinea. Greg goes over there to do some good, Greg Focker, and then Jack gets mixed up in some international intrigue. Like, how do you miss that opportunity? So I wrote the script, Fockers Without Borders, during the COVID pandemic, just to do it. I got it in everybody's hands. I have not heard back from Ben Stiller or Barry Welsh, the producer of the first one. I think they think I'm an a-hole. I haven't heard back from Jay Roche, who also produced it. I did hear back from Jim Hertzfeld, who wrote Meet the Parents, and he kindly forwarded it to somebody else. But a bunch of people in the industry have it. And, I think it's a missed opportunity. I think it's great. I posted it on Facebook, so it's like open source. You can, take a read. We wrote something really good and nice, I think. My next plan, like I said, I'm a crazy person. I also paint. Like I snuck into the Banksy exhibit and I put some of my own paintings in there. I do weird stuff. So my next plan is I'm going to take my script. I'm going to put the Fockers Without Borders, put it in pizza boxes, and just get it to Tribeca Film, who produced them. So I'm going to put it underneath the pizza. And I have a custom pizza box called Trojan Horse Pizza, and I'm going to get some complicit Pizza Hut place manager up in New York to deliver them for me with my script underneath the pizza. So that's what I'm going to do next to make sure that they get it. Why not? Like, who cares?
Yeah.
Like, what do I care? Right. So I'm going to do it.
Sean,
Anyway.
you watch, have you ever seen It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia?
Yeah, I've seen it once or twice.
Okay,
Why?
that sounds like one of their schemes that they would come up with
Yeah,
on
no, I
that
love
show.
schemes. I'm a scheming guy. So my latest scheme, which actually has some traction, some people are looking at it right now, is that I wanted to make a sitcom. I always said, like, I want to make a sitcom about TED Talks, but Brody Miller, that's the main character, is a down on his luck. He's out of a job, out of his wife kicks out, house, self-improvement daily TED Talks. That's the log line for the show, right? So imagine it's like Seinfeld. Seinfeld has like a little stand-up comedy, then it goes to the sitcom, then coming out of break, it's a stand-up comedy, what they call cold opens in the business. So the cold open is the TED Talk, that is it. And the TED Talk I used was Tim Urban's procrastination TED Talk, which if you've never watched it, you have to watch it. Tim Urban, TED Talk, Inside the Mind of a Master Procrastinator. It's excellent. It's life-changing. So, but, it has a little bit from Tim Urban, and then it goes to Brody Miller, and then a little bit from Tim Urban, and then it goes to Brody Miller, So the cold opens are the TED Talk, and all about this guy, Brody Miller, who's trying to improve his life, and how it kind of comes together in a very Curb Your Enthusiasm meets what was that Indian movie where the guy won
Slumdog Millionaire.
And a Slumdog Millionaire has kind of elements of Slumdog Millionaire. That things kind of go right through no initiative of his own, So it was very funny. I have a couple of bites from Hollywood agents. I called Chris Anderson already, left a message. He's the head of TED Talks, CEO of TED Talks. But I have it right here. Here's my script. But you might be seeing this, hopefully, if all goes well according to my scheme. But here you can see. Corrected. That's the name of it.
Ooh, awesome.
So yeah, just like to have fun with life. I just like to do fun, weird things. So that's one of the weird things I'm doing. And like I said, I paint and I do a lot of other stuff in my spare time on my weeks off. But listen, it's the only ride we got. It's you got to make it interesting. You got to make it fun. So hopefully you'll be seeing in the future Fockers Without Borders. Otherwise, to get their attention, if the pizza doesn't do it, I'm just going to put it on Amazon as a book. And I can't charge for it because it's not my IP. So it'll be free, but any proceeds, I'll ask for donations, will go to the benefit, one of Ben Stiller's or De Niro's charities or something. So if they don't hear from me, I'll put it up there. Where there's a will, there's a way. And I have a heck of a lot of will. So
you ever meet either of those guys back when you were on that ride? No?
Never. Not even De Niro. And I ate at Nobu a bunch of times in New York, but never met him. But, listen, Sean from Survivor doesn't open any doors. And it did maybe a little bit for a little brief time, but it doesn't open any doors. Every door I've opened has been from knocking and kicking it down by and large. So that's another life lesson I've learned is that, the more doors you knock on, you got to increase your risk of success. And just because you're knocking, no one's answering doesn't mean there's no one there. So, sometimes you got to jigger the handle a little bit or kick the door open and sneak your way in. And another thing is that everybody's phony in life. Everyone's phony. Don't be afraid about being inauthentic. Don't be so afraid of it. The whole world is fake, especially television and entertainment. It's all fake. It's an industry based on fakeness. So, don't be too shy about, stretching the truth or making, a self-aggrandizement. Just go and get what you want and don't be self-limiting.
Very good. You touched on so many interesting things. I wanted to tell you, because you brought up Seinfeld, has anyone ever told you look like Jerry Seinfeld?
We're I think it must be the speech pattern. We're from the same hometown, Massapequa, Long Island. So I never met him. He was in town and he was being interviewed by Barbara Walters when I was in New York City. And I offered to come out and take him to All American, which is a burger place near us. And I called the producer who was with him at the time, and they kind of said, thanks, but no thanks, don't bother. So that's really the closest I came to meeting him. But yeah, no, I could say it, but it's probably because we have a very same, New York nasally voice, the same accent, we talk like this. So I can't do a Jerry Seinfeld impression. I can just talk like I do, and somehow that comes off as Jerry Seinfeld.
I think you look a little like him too. At least you did when you were on Survivor.
Oh yeah,
young Seinfeld and young.
Yeah. There's definitely a resemblance. We both got this long head. God bless him for owning it and much more successfully than I have. But still, he seems like a swell guy. I'd love to meet him one day. But that's what, this show is very much like that. It is definitely an element of Seinfeld that took a lot of the humor from that. Again, like I do my homework. It's a really well written script, and like I said, a couple of people are already interested, big agents at the big agencies. So maybe something will happen. I need people to be complicit with my plans, but like I just told you, I'm a door knocker. So somehow I'll make it happen. And I'm going to write a cookbook soon just for the fun of it. All you're going to learn is how to make a meatball. That's all you're going to make. It's filled with other lunacy. I'm going to tell you, the bread, you only get one recipe. There's a meatball. But at the end of it, I make a wicked meatball. But at the end of it, like it's a cookbook for a meatball, but there's all these other meditations in between that you're going to have. Because I want you to think about making a meatball. It's another good idea. I got all kinds of crazy stuff going on.
You are very creative.
I like to have a lot of fun, man. That's it. Just a lot of fun.
I can see why they picked you for Survivor.
Yeah, because they said that this guy's gonna, and then I get out there and I freeze like a deer in headlights. Like I'm showing the doctor, I'm not multifaceted. I am singular. But no, it wasn't that interesting out there. But again, I said a lot of interesting things out there. It's just it's a matter of what they want to air. And I was very much the same person that you saw during this interview. Out there. It's just that, they want to string together your idiotic moments. They can do it. And I think they were fair. I'm not, I'm not upset with my portrayal or how they edited me together. I mean, I think they edited a facet of my commercial, a useless, dorky yuppie, which is true in some senses. But let me tell you, if you have a brain tumor, you probably don't have any better guy in the universe taking care of you other than myself. Like, you got the right guy, because I have a good brain, but I have a good heart. I'll make sure you're well taken care of. So it's very context dependent, but at the same time is, you just, if anyone take home from this whole thing is like, I've been very successful my entire life at having fun. I'm not the richest guy in the world, but I've always had enough money. I have the best family in the world, and that's inarguable. But at the same time is like, I've had so much fun in my life, and I continue to have fun. I still have so many things on my plate. My life is half over, and I definitely want the back half of my life to be as much fun as the front half of my life. And even at this ripe old age of soon to be 53, I'm going to do it. But, life lesson, just don't let anything stand in your way. Most of all, don't let yourself stand in the way of anything that you want.
As someone who's a neurologist, still, right? You're in neurology,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Okay. My question is, would you be able to tell that there's something wrong with my brain after talking to me for 2 hours?
No, I think you're exactly right, Jack. You're perfect. You're
good.
a perfect specimen. You're a perfect human being, no doubt about it. I think you're doing a lot right. Pursue your dreams, man. You got a big future. You're still so young. You're gonna have your own show, bro. I'm gonna speak it to the universe. You're gonna have your own show.
This is one right here.
Show. I'd say on like ESPN or something. You have that kind of personality. You're gonna have your own show. If that's where you want to go, that's what you're gonna have. You're going to get there. No doubt about it. Yeah, this is your own show. But honestly, you have millions and millions of viewers on your podcast and be Joe Rogan. That's it. So
I think that is the future of this. I think that's the future of this business, really.
Yeah. Yeah. I certainly wouldn't wish a terrestrial radio show on you. No doubt about it. I would not want that for you.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. So, lastly, how can we all just get behind you with all of this stuff that you're doing?
Yeah, I mean, just you can follow me on Facebook. I accept all kinds of friendships. I'm not picky. You could just stay tuned for this other weirdness has to materialize. I would really appreciate you guys going out and buying the jerk at work if you can, because it's been 2 long years. I've warehoused it. It was financially hard. I mean, listen, I know there's people in true financial hardships all around me. But at the same time, I invented this thing. I had to put my dreams on hold for 2 years. And there's so much of me in this product that I did specifically myself that I'm not ready to see it die and willing to see it die. And at the same time, it's me. And I think that it could have a lot of success. I think it's fun. You'll get a great product. It's cheap. It's about $30. And you'll have a lot of fun with it. But yeah, that would really help on, because it's been a long 2 years weathering this. I just put it on. I started to sell last year, and it took off a little bit, like a couple here and there. I was like, you know what? I can't promote it. I can't go with 8%. I'm screaming into the void to buy a doll that no one's back at work yet. So, but this year it seems like things are a little bit better. But if you can do anything that would help me and help me launch this, like I can do a lot of good. And if this becomes a multi-million-dollar product, the plan is to not hoard all that. I make plenty of money. I don't see myself ever buying any yacht or anything. I just see myself doing a heck of a lot of good for a heck of a lot of people if it comes to fruition the way I know it can.
Awesome. Well, hey, and the college guys, if we got any college guy listeners, which I'm sure we do, guys, I know you like the pranks. We did
Yeah.
a lot of pranks in college.
Yeah, I want
Dorm
to do the big
room,
jerk on
house.
campus soon. Once you make the jerk at work, the next is big jerk on campus with
Yeah,
licensing
but
the NCAA sweaters and everything.
jerk at work still
Yeah.
works for college
It
too. You
does.
can
Just
get that.
you go, and you can probably find even a sweater online. They make accessories for these things on Etsy and stuff. So you can buy a doll sweater and just make them the big jerk on campus. But I think it's really good. I mean, I wouldn't believe, I believe in it, and I worked really hard on it, and I can't tell you how much work goes into inventing that. It makes me wonder how. Like, here's a sphygmomanometer, a blood pressure cuff, right? I use it to check my blood pressure here. Same thing you can buy at CVS. How do I get this patented? How do I build this? How do I use the electronics that other people have patented within the mechanism here? Like, it is so complicated just to get a doll through safety testing and invention and patent and clearing the patent search and doing all that stuff. Like, I can't even tell you. I'm not trying to discourage any inventors out there, but I cannot tell you how much work it took. It is enormous amount of work. So the fact that it was enormous and it's finally here, I just hope that people like it, buy it, share it with their friends, tell their friends about it. I hope it becomes a big success that I know it can.
He's Dr. Sean Kenniff. You can find him on Facebook. Use Twitter, Instagram at all? Should people follow you?
Yeah,
there?
Twitter. I'm on Twitter under Sean Kenniff. I think it might be Dr. Sean Kenniff. I'm the only one there. And, of course, you can always email me at drsseankenniff@gmail.com. I'm a friend to everybody. I don't mind hearing from anybody ever. So, it's drsseankenniff@gmail.com. But yeah, if you want to contact me, if I said anything that you felt was meaningful, if you hate my guts, even, you can write me and I'll explain myself further. I don't.
Well, you know what? This is how it works with the Survivor fans. If they hate on somebody, which, by the way, I have not seen. I mean, I don't really pay attention to that stuff, so maybe I'm wrong, but I've not seen any hatred your way recently, at least.
Right. I'm an unhateable guy, and I think that the word's gotten around in the aftermath of Survivor about why I was voting in alphabetical order.
Right.
I think voting for Richard is inarguable. I mean, if you watch the show, you're a fan of the show. You can hate Richard all day long. A lot of us hate him, right? But he earned it, and he deserved to win it. And he was a good winner. I mean, minus his tax situation, but he deserved to win it. And I think anybody in their right mind, which I was, would have done the same thing.
So, but here's the thing with Survivor fans is they might hate on somebody, and then when they just pop up out of the woodworks like this, they're very happy to see them, and I think that's going to be the case.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people are going to be happy to hear from you.
And like I said, I got thick skin. I could take it all. So it doesn't. I've been through much worse than anything you can hand at me. No doubt about it.
He's Dr. Sean. Buy The Jerk at Work at thejerkatwork.com. Thank you so much for your time today, Sean.
Thank you, Jack. You're amazing. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Great time.
All right, y'all. That concludes my conversation today with Dr. Sean Kenniff. I want to thank him for coming on. It was a joy talking with him. He's a great guy, and I hope you guys will support him with The Jerk at Work. It was cool getting in touch with him recently, and as I promised, we will have Jervis Peterson on this show in the near future, and we're going to have other Survivor contestants on in the near future. In fact, tomorrow, this is right now, I'm recording this, it's Thanksgiving week 2022. Depending on when this comes out, depending on when our next episode comes out, but the next episode that you guys should hear is a podcast episode that I'll be recording with my dear friend Stephanie LaGrossa Kendrick, which she's been on this show now 4 times, so I think this is the 5th time that we'll be having her on. And we are going to interview her nephew, Philip. Her nephew, Philip LaGrossa. His team came up 1 game shy of the Little League World Series playing for Toms River East, and they played in the regionals, and those games were on ESPN. So he is a star, and he's got a bright future in front of him. So we're going to talk Little League baseball, youth sports. It's going to be a really fun conversation. I hope you guys will enjoy it. It's going to be a fun hour. It's always fun when we speak with Stephanie. So tune in for that. If you guys enjoyed today's episode of the Jack Vita Show, make sure that you subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, wherever it is that you're listening to this podcast. I'd love it if you paused right now, or at least, there's like a minute left here. So when this ends, go and hit subscribe, because we're getting people watching these podcasts. We get a lot of people watching and listening to them, but it's like if I don't post it on any social media, if I don't post it anywhere, if it doesn't come up on Google, people don't see it. So we need people subscribing so you guys are checking it out and we can keep growing this show. In addition to subscribing, follow me on social media at Jack Vita Show on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And we're going to have more great content coming soon. Like I said, I'm speaking with Stephanie tomorrow. And until then, I'm Jack Vita, bringing the dance to the lobsters.